Doryani.
My victory was never in doubt.
The fourth edict already burns for your world. Insignificance. This is the legacy of humanity. The mother soul.
What's up, guys? I've got a new build that I am really excited to share with you guys today. It is probably my favorite build that I have played in Path of Exile 2. Not just this league, but since the launch of Early Access. This build is just, I'm having so much fun playing it. It's another poison physical spellcaster. You guys saw my last build guide that I put out. It was for a poison plant spellcaster. This time we're using bone spells exclusively. I'm calling it Doedre's Poison Bone Cock. Now, as you can see from the intro footage and the footage on screen, when it comes to, mapping, farming, juiced abyss maps, clearing temples, just farming for crystals for temples. This build is, in terms of power, speed of clear, it is, I would say, on par with the elemental weakness, cast on crit, comet builds that are very meta this league. So for mapping, we have a very, hard-hitting, very satisfying one-button setup. We just spam the vulnerability curse, which procs, we have that socketed with Doedre's Undoing, which causes it to deal a good amount of chaos damage. And we have a high crit chance, which causes that to proc our cast on crit bone cage setup to deal a ton of damage with a lot of AoE and basically clear entire screens. We also have blink on the build for added speed and mobility while mapping, allowing us to blink over gaps and stuff like that. It's really nice to have on the build. And then for single target, our bossing strategy might honestly be even more satisfying than the mapping strategy. We use the really high damage skill bonestorm to one-shot map bosses. We can almost one-shot pinnacle bosses as well. If not 2 shots, they're dead. Really, really satisfying to just charge up a bunch of bones and just launch them and just shotgun the boss and take them out instantly. Really, really satisfying. And as you can see, our tooltip DPS on Bonestorm in Hideout is sitting at over 3.1 million. That's not factoring in buffs that we get from using things like Sigil of Power and Soul Offering. So this skill deals a crazy amount of damage. And that's not even factoring in our poison DPS either, which dramatically boosts the amount of damage this does. Right now I'm sitting at 94% chance to poison on hit on this build, with actually surprisingly little investment. We'll talk about later in the video how we're getting so much poison chance for fairly cheap. We are using the Plague Finger gloves, which is one of the ways we're getting chance to poison as well. But this also gives us another really nice line, which says all damage from hits contributes to poison magnitude. This is really nice because it means that all of our elemental damage sources are going to be contributing to our poison magnitude as well. So we don't have to worry about only scaling physical or chaos damage. We can also scale elemental damage, and we get a lot of benefit from that as well. And now, because of our Ascendancy gives us a really nice node called Overwhelming Toxicity that allows us to double the number of poisons we can inflict on a target. And then because of a few nodes that we grab on the passive tree, combined with this node, we are able to stack up to 6 stacks of poison on every single enemy we hit, which is going to give us a ton more damage. If I actually look at POB and look at my Bone Cage skill, you can see the hit DPS for Bone Cage is sitting at 716,000. But if you look at the combined DPS of the hit DPS plus poison, the combined DPS is sitting at over 2.1 million. So it's essentially, in this case, almost tripling our DPS output. So crazy, crazy amount of damage scaling that we're getting from having poison on the build. Now our Ascendancy also gives us another couple of really nice benefits. One is the Traveler's Wisdom node. This allows us to really easily scale more damage on the build because it allows us to spec our attribute passive skills into damage instead of attributes. So once we meet our attribute requirements, everything else can go into damage, which is going to give us a ton of extra damage basically for free on the build, which is really nice. Now this build does not have a huge effective health pool, but it actually feels pretty tanky. It actually feels very survivable. There's a couple reasons for that. One of the reasons is we just kill things so fast on the build that we don't really get hit very often. But we also recover our health pool very fast. So we are using life to cast our skills, and we're using the combination of Mind over Matter, Keystone, which makes it so that all of 100% of damage taken comes from mana before life. So our mana now acts as an effective health pool for us. And then we have Eldritch Battery as well, which converts all sources of energy shield, a flat energy shield, get converted into mana. So that allows us to scale our mana and give us a larger life pool. We're also using mana remnants on the build, which gives us a really, really easy way to regain our mana, because anytime we kill enemies, they drop mana remnants. We pick those up, it refills our mana. But it also allows us to overflow our mana to 1.5 times the normal maximum, which means that while we're mapping, we end up sitting at somewhere around 4,200 mana, which is actually a pretty nice amount of defense. And then our life pool also overflows as well. Since we're using life to cast our skills, we're using the Covenant Altar Robe to give us life remnants, which, much like mana remnants, we pick up the life remnants when we kill enemies, which heals us, can overflow our life, and it helps us to sustain our spell casting since we're casting with life instead of mana. So since these both overflow, mana and life both overflow, we end up sitting at well over 6,000 effective health pool in combat, which allows us to feel very survivable. And because we recover that life pool so easily, I rarely die on this build, even though it looks like I'm pretty squishy. So overall, I would say this build is very strong. It's very fast. There isn't any content in the game this can't handle, from farming juice to the hilt abyss maps with delirium on them, and the mod that gives you increased difficulty and reward every time you close an abyss pit on overrun maps. Like, this build can take on all of that stuff. And pinnacle bosses, Uber Arbiter, this build just eats them all up. So super fun build, and it's definitely different than some of the other meta builds that are out there right now. Okay, we can go ahead and get into our skill gems now. I'll try to get through this quickly. I know I tend to ramble, so starting with our Spellslinger. You don't need a Spellslinger wand on this build, but if you do have one, it is a nice quality of life thing. I occasionally use Spellslinger. If you're in, I use it with Bone Cage. And if let's say you're fighting a tough pack of abyssal monsters or something like that, or you're fighting a boss, you can just hit Spellslinger and get a big boost of damage really quick and help wipe them out. So it's just a nice to have, but not essential. I have this socketed with Bone Cage, Astral Projection, so it casts at the enemy's location. Normally Bone Cage casts at your character location. This casts it at the enemy location. We have Spell Cascade, so it casts 3 times, or you have 3 Bone Cages that are cast at once, and then Life Tap to make sure that we are casting with life instead of mana. Sigil of Power I am getting from my staff on weapon set 2. That gives us a damage boost, which I cast this before bosses. Have this socketed with Magnified Area 2, Prolonged Duration 2, Cooldown Recovery 2, Life Remnants. We get this from our body armor, gives us life back, overflows our life. We have this socketed with Remnant Potency 3, so we gain more life back from those remnants. And we have Harmonic Remnants 2 on here as well, so we can collect the remnants from further away. Vulnerability is our self-cast ability for mapping. We run around just casting Vulnerability, and then everything else comes from that. So Vulnerability, we have this socketed with Doedre's Undoing. Doedre's Undoing makes it a damaging skill. So that is essential for the build. Spell Cascade, so we get 3 cursed areas at once. Focus Curse, so the cursed erupts more quickly. I highly recommend using this. If you don't use this, it's going to feel much less smooth. So Focus Curse is essential. Pinpoint Critical is really good for this build too, because Doedre's Undoing has a very low, if you look at Doedre's Dark Design, it has a low base crit chance of only 7%. So since we're using this to proc our cast on critical, you definitely want to have Pinpoint Critical on here. And then we have Atalui's Bloodletting as well. This gives us life tap, so we cast with life, not mana, and we gain extra physical damage from this. Bonestorm, I have socketed with Ulnatol's Embrace. This helps us to break armor more efficiently. It's really, really nice to have. If you can't afford or don't have an Ulnatol's Embrace, you can just go with like Heft or something, but you're not going to as effectively break armor. Deliberation just gives us more damage. Considered Casting, once again, more damage. Zenith 2 gives us more damage when we're above 90% of our max mana. Since we're casting with life, not mana, we're pretty much always over 90%, so we're pretty much always getting the benefit of this, which is really, really nice. You can see, if I take this out, I get a huge amount of damage from that one support gem, so really, really nice to have. And then we've also got life tap on here as well, so we're casting with life, not mana. Thunderstorm I have on here to shock bosses. I only use this against bosses, and this is primarily to shock them. It has a really long duration, which is nice, so you just cast it before the boss spawns in, and then put it down where the boss is going to be. When the boss spawns in, they're going to get shocked immediately. Make sure that with plus levels of modifiers, you get this to at least level 18. If you use a lower level one, it will not shock enemies as effectively, because this has the line on there that says drenched enemies have 60% chance to be shocked. If you get like a lower level one, it will say, enemies above such and such level cannot be drenched. So you want to make sure it's at least level 18 so all levels of enemies can be drenched. So that's important. But don't go too high either, because you don't want to increase the cost too much. I have this socketed with Lightning Penetration, Shock for more shock chance, Magnified Area 2, Life Tap to cast with life, and Shock Conduction 2, which is not really necessary. Okay, cast on critical. This is used in tandem with Vulnerability Curse in mapping. So cast on crit procs anytime our Vulnerability Curse deals damage, which procs Bone Cage. Bone Cage deals a lot of damage. We have this socketed with Astral Projection, so once again it casts at the enemy's location. Spell Cascades, we get multiple of them. Diala's Desire, which I mainly have on here to reduce the skill or the spirit costs of cast on crit. Normally cast on crit costs 100 spirit. With quality you can get that down to 90, and then with Diala's Desire it brings it down to 78, allowing me to run cast on crit. Typically my mapping setup is cast on crit, blink, and mana remnants. And as you can see, I only have 1 spirit left, so having Diala's Desire on there is very important. And then I also have life tap, so we're casting once again with life. Blink I have on the build for mobility, socketed with Anziri's Impatience for cooldown recovery rate, and rapid casting too. Mana Remnants I have socketed with Harmonic Remnants too, so the remnants can be collected from further away. Remnant Potency, so we get more mana back. Skeletal Cleric and Soul Offering I only use for pinnacle bossing. For map bossing, I don't bother with this. But before a pinnacle boss, you know, if I'm going to go in and fight Uber Xesht or Uber Arbiter, what I'll do is turn off Blink, turn on Skeletal Cleric before the boss, and then I have my little Skeletal Cleric guy, and I can cast Soul Offering, which now gives me 89% increased spell damage. So you can see normally my tooltip is 3.1 mil. On Bonestorm, now it's 3.6 mil. So we get a big damage boost from that. But like I said, most of the time you're not going to be bothering with that. Because Blink is just so nice to have for mapping. Okay, Skeletal Cleric I have socketed with Last Gasp just to make sure the minion stays alive long enough for me to cast Soul Offering. If you try to cast Soul Offering in the middle of a fight, your minion can die. But if you have Last Gasp on there, they'll stay alive for 4 seconds after their life is reduced to 0, giving you time to cast Soul Offering, which is nice. And then Soul Offering I have socketed with Prolonged Duration 2 for extra buff duration. Life Tap, cast with Life Not Mana. Efficiency, because it actually has a pretty high life cost. Guatalitsi's Ablation, this one's not necessary. It just gives you power charges when you have Soul Offering out. Power charges give your bonestorm more AoE, which really doesn't help against bosses, so you definitely don't need this. And then Brutus's Brain is very important to have on here. I would say this one's essential because the Soul Offering, if the boss hits it, will kill it, and then you lose your buff. So recommend Brutus's Brain, that way the boss cannot deal damage to it and cannot destroy it. Frostwall I have on here for utility for the temple. I mentioned this in my previous build guide. I have Frostwall on all my builds that I use to run the temple. So if you're running the temple, have Frostwall on there. The reason for that is there are monsters in the Golem Works rooms most often. Sometimes they're those construct monsters that don't spawn in for some reason. They're bugged. So occasionally you'll go in that room, you'll see the monster there, you'll try to hit it, you can't damage it, they don't spawn in, and you can't exit the room until you kill that monster. So it's kind of a pain. But if you cast Frostwall on them, they'll wake up and you can kill them. So I recommend Frostwall for that reason. Okay, so that's our skill gems. We can go ahead and get into our gear. For our gear, we have, for our wand, we have a powerful physical wand. So most important line here, plus level of physical spell skills, plus 5 is very good if you can get it. Critical hit chance, important. Percent increased spell damage and spell physical damage. Spell damage is a little bit better because it affects our vulnerability curse, which does chaos damage, whereas spell physical damage does not benefit that, but both lines are good. So this one's not ideal, but it's still very good. And then gain is extra lightning is good because it helps us shock enemies. Other gain is extra elementals are fine as well. I have extra fire here, extra cold is fine as well. All those elemental damages will scale our poison because of our gloves. So those will all work. And then I also have cast speed on here. Critical damage bonus would also be really good, probably better actually, but either will work. For our focus, you just want plus level of all spell skills, plus 2. Critical hit chance for spells and critical damage bonus. And then spell physical damage, spell damage, and energy shield as much as you can get. So this one's not as good as it could be. I definitely have room for improvement on my focus here. For your helmet, you want one with plus 4 to level of all skills. That's just a huge buff to your damage. You also want one with percent increased critical hit chance, chaos resistance. Also, the line that says skill gems have no attribute requirements is really nice. It reduces the amount of intelligence you need, which gives you more points because of our Ascendancy that we can spec into damage. So the more we can lower our attribute requirements or get attributes on gear, the more we can spec into damage, which is nice. And then if you want to run cast on crit, blink, and mana remnants, you will need a tribal mask with a spirit enchant on it. These are very expensive. If you can't afford a spirit enchant helmet like this, then I would just opt not to play with blink, unfortunately. because you really want to have mana remnants on here. So I would go without blink if you can't afford it, but if you can, then get one with the spirit enchant. You can play with all three. Okay, I'll talk about the body armor next. Body armor is the Covenant Altar robe. You want to get one with a cultivated line. The main thing is you want to remove the line that says skills gain life cost equal to base mana cost. Get rid of that line. That would increase your cost a lot. So the ideal line is to get one like I have that removes that line and replaces it with increased life cost efficiency, which reduces your life cost. You also want to really make sure you get one that retains the line 10% of spell damage leeches life. That's essential for the build. Okay, gloves, another very important unique on the build. It's giving us poison chance, and all damage from hits contributes to poison magnitude. I also have this socketed with 20% magnitude of damaging ailments you inflict, which increases our poison damage. And you also want to make sure it's really, really beneficial if you can get an overrolled poison chance one. So normally these gloves have 20 to 30% chance to poison on hit. Mine have 36. I would recommend shooting for at least 34. That way you can get, I have 94% chance to poison on my build. I would recommend trying to get at least 90% chance to poison. It's just going to make things feel a lot better, and you're going to be poisoning everything that you hit, just about. Okay, Headhunter for our belts. You want one with preferably, any resistances that you need as an enchant on them. You can get one with multiple resistances. Those can get a little pricey. Intelligence is nice because, once again, the more intelligence we can get on our gear, the more we can spec into damage on our tree. So that's really nice. And then make sure you get enough charm slots, at least 2, so you can get all 3 charms. Boots. You want one with boots with high energy shield, movement speed, and resistances and or rarity, whatever you need. And then our amulet is a very important piece on the build. Our amulet, you need an amulet with +3 to level of spell skills. You want spirit. If you want to run, once again, cast on crit, blink, mana remnants, try to get one with as high spirit as you can, preferably tier 1. For my build, if you want to exactly copy my build, I need exactly 48 spirit on an amulet. You could get a solar amulet, which has a spirit implicit. Then you don't need as high of a spirit roll. But yeah, try to make sure you're getting as much spirit as you can here. And then beyond that, you want maximum mana. I have maximum percent increased maximum energy shield. That does nothing for the build. So you can toss that line out, replace it with percent increased mana, or spell physical, or percent increased spell damage would be good as well. I have critical damage bonus and cast speed on my suffixes as well. You can also get critical hit chance. Even intelligence would be good, or resistances if you need them. For my rings, you want maximum mana, percent increased max mana, rarity, cast speed, resistances. It's kind of what you're looking for. This one doesn't have the cast speed, but it has the double rarity, all res, cold res, just whatever you need there. Okay, that's the gear. For flasks, I do recommend instant recovery flasks, both for your life and mana flasks. Just because if you ever find yourself in trouble, it'll help keep you alive and help keep you casting in the case. I don't ever find myself in a situation where I can't cast my skills, but if you were to, being able to get it back with instant life recovery will keep you casting. So just nice to have. Charms, Stone Charm is nice just to prevent stuns. Freeze Charm. And then I have a Rite of Passage. You could also put an Ignite Charm if you can't afford a Rite of Passage. I have Spirit of the Wolf. This gives me armor break, skill speed, movement speed. It's a really nice one. Okay, that's the gear. We can go ahead and get into the passive tree. We'll start by talking about the Ascendancy. We start by getting Path of the Sorceress. This gives us additional passive points, which is really, really nice. It also allows us to start at the Sorceress location, which is really nice since we're a spellcaster. We want to get all the spell nodes. Whereas if we start over here, we would lose a bunch of passive points by having to path up here. So Path of the Sorceress is one of the things that makes this build work. And then we come up for Traveler's Wisdom, which, like I discussed before, allows us to spec into % increased damage instead of attributes. We're getting something like 150% increased damage just from these nodes, which is really, really nice and really powerful for the build. Free damage scaling. Can't complain about that. Then we got Overwhelming Toxicity to double the number of poisons we can inflict on a target. That allows us to get to that 6 poisons. And then Relentless Pursuit, just a nice quality of life. We cannot be slowed, so things like Temp Chains, Chill do not affect us on this build. Okay, I'm going to talk about the jewels next. The jewels are very important on this build. You need 2 Time Lost Sapphires. This is one of the things that makes the build very expensive, is you need 2 Time Lost Sapphires to make this build work. This is where we're getting our poison magnitude scaling, since we're not scaling over here to get all the poison magnitude on this side of the tree. We're getting it from our jewels instead. So you'll notice this one has 2 lines of magnitude of ailments and magnitude of damaging ailments with critical hits. And we're also getting a lot of our crit from these jewels as well. So this jewel gives me 2 lines of % increased critical hit chance. Since we have 5 notables in this range, we get 14% increased crit chance for each one. So it's 14 times 5% critical hit chance for this one jewel. And then for the magnitude of ailments as well, we're getting a ton of magnitude of ailments from these 5 notables here. Now for this one, we are getting more chance to poison because it has that line on there. Notable passive skills grant increased chance to inflict ailments. The way we're getting to 94% chance to poison on this build is a few different things. So like I said, it's not too much investment, and we're not losing very much by investing into poison here, which is really nice. So chance to poison on hit, we're getting 36% chance to poison on hit from our gloves. We have 3 small passives here that grant poison chance. So this is 24% chance to poison between those 3. 36 plus 24 is 60% chance to poison. Then we have, all the way on this side of the tree, a Heart of the Well diamond. That gives us 10% chance to poison on hit. That gets us to 70%. And then this jewel here grants 7% increased chance to inflict ailments. We have 5 nodes here. And that is bringing us up to our 94% chance to poison. So that's how we're getting so much poison chance on the build. And then this jewel, I also have critical damage bonus on here, critical spell damage bonus, and more ailment magnitude as well. And % increased max mana, also a really nice line. Okay, our other jewels, once again, Heart of the Well, chance to poison, most important line. Gain as extra, doesn't matter the element. I do recommend lightning because it helps us shock, but any other element will do, or chaos damage. And then critical damage bonus is good as well. I have a Megalomaniac with 2 really good lines on it. This one has Pure Chaos, which is gain 11% of damage as extra chaos. And then the other node is Shredding Force, which grants critical hit chance for spells, critical spell damage bonus, and magnitude of damaging ailments you inflict with crits. Really, really nice Megalomaniac. If you can't afford a really nice Megalo like this one, or if you do want to get a Megalo, you want to just look for nodes that grant you benefits to crit chance, crit bonus, and then any poison nodes I would recommend. So nodes like crippling toxins or leeching toxins would be good options. There's some good physical nodes, so like this one's Stylebender, physical damage. There's one somewhere over here. This one's actually pretty nice too, Endured Suffering. So you've got a couple good options. Or if you can't afford a good Megalo or you can't find a good one, then you can always go with a rare Sapphire that gives you critical hit chance, critical damage bonus, and ailment magnitude as well. And then I also have a Prism of Belief. I actually have 2 Prisms of Belief that I swap between, depending on what I want to do. You don't need to swap between two, but I have one for bonestorm and one for bone cage. With the bonestorm one equipped, my tooltip DPS is 3.1 million. If I pull that out, it's like 2.2 million. So we gain like almost a million DPS from the +3 to bonestorm skills. It's also nice because this was really cheap. I want to say it was like 3 divine. And then our bone cage one will give us like 120,000 more bone cage DPS. So you can see this is on Spellslinger right here, 209k. If I plug this one in, it goes up to like 329k, something like that. So a lot of damage that we get from that. I would say I use the bone cage one more often. So I use this when I'm like doing temples and stuff. And then I only use the bonestorm one if I want to like farm pinnacle bosses. If I'm gonna go kill Uber Arbiter or kill Uber Xesht, and I just really want to like experience that like big one-shot potential, huge hits, then I'll plug in the bonestorm one. But 99% of the time I'm using this one. And if you don't want to switch back and forth between the two, just get the bone cage one. This one was like 40 divines when I bought it. The bone cage one, or the bone storm one, was like 3 divines. But the build is functional with either or in all scenarios. So, you know, do whatever you want to do there. Okay, that's the jewels. Now we can go ahead and just go over the rest of the tree. So we're starting in the sorceress area. We're coming through getting all these spell damage nodes. Come up here, grabbing cast speed, grabbing these crit nodes. We come up here and grab spell area of effect. So area of effect, really nice for helping our curses be bigger, our bone cages be bigger areas. Crit, come up here to grab the jewel socket and mind over matter. Come to the right to grab all these cluster of nodes here. We need to come down here to grab Eldritch Battery, and it's actually more efficient to go down here than through this direction. So yeah, coming down here, grabbing raw mana for % increased max mana. Arcane Intensity for increased spell damage per the amount of mana we have. It's a nice damage boost. Eldritch Battery converts our energy shield to mana. And then we're going to grab Ingenuity as well, because 25 intelligence means more of these nodes we can spec into damage. The nodes in this wheel here are actually, all of the notables we're grabbing here are beneficial to the build, which is really nice. So we get double synergy there. So we grab turn the clock back and turn the clock forward for % increased spell damage, and then time lost jewel effects. Mental Alacrity grants us cast speed, mana regen rate, and jewel benefits. Tempered Mind, physical damage, critical damage bonus, really nice, some strength. And Invocated Efficiency, which helps our cast on crit and Spellslinger bone cages do more damage. And then, of course, we get all of the jewel effects as well. Come up here, grab some crit chance. It's a really powerful crit chance node. Come down here, grab all of these crit nodes. Impending Doom is a very important node. This helps our curse activate faster, so they deal damage faster. Without this, what's going to happen is you're going to put your curse down, and enemies aren't going to take damage right away, so they're going to have more time to hit you and kill you. So this will help you kill things faster. More critical damage bonus here. I managed to get all of the small passes, which is nice. These poison nodes here, escalating toxins is nice because it essentially doubles our poison duration. We lose a lot of poison duration by speccing into increased number of poisons. So this helps them to last a little bit longer. Building toxins gives us +1 to poisons. We're getting our other +1 to poison from our anointment on our amulet of stacking toxins. So stacking toxins anointed on our amulet gives us another +1. So between these two and the 1 base poison we get with our Ascendancy, that doubles it. So we get 3 doubled is 6 poison stacks. Okay, coming down here for our last jewel slot, we are grabbing these crit nodes, which are really nice on their own. And then we gain extra effects from having the time lost sapphire there. This one, we don't get the jewel, the normal notable effect because it says attacks have +1% to crit hit chance, but we're not an attack build, so we don't gain any benefit from that. We're only grabbing this node because it's just 2 points to get extra jewel, extra benefits from the jewel. These nodes here are kind of interesting. We get benefits from dazing enemies. Daze, if you're not sure what that does, it causes enemies to take more stun buildup. So some of these nodes give us chance to daze enemies, which is nice. So we get like 15% chance to daze on hit. When we use like bonestorm, for example, we shoot out 20 projectiles. Each projectile individually has 15% chance to daze on hit, so you're likely to daze enemies. So it's really nice against bosses. You may have noticed in the boss fight that I had in the intro against Arbiter, I was able to heavy stun him in the second phase of the fight. That's because I probably dazed him. So really nice benefit there. And then these nodes also give us like increased crit hit chance and increased damage against dazed enemies, which is really nice. Okay, that is the entire build. I think that's everything I wanted to cover. We can quickly go over the bossing rotation actually. So, you know, for map bosses, just run in, throw down a thunderstorm to shock them, throw down a sigil of power, and bonestorm them. One time usually is enough. If it doesn't kill them, you know, hit your spell slinger to drop down a bunch of bone cages on them. For pinnacle bosses though, I would make sure you have your +3 to bonestorm skills on, and then turn off blink, turn on skeletal clerics, throw down your sigil of power, your thunderstorm, and then do soul offering. Now you've got extra. If I look at my tooltip now, it's 4.2 million on Bonestorm. So then you're going to just hit your boss with Bonestorm. Okay, so that's the bossing rotation. Mapping is literally just cast this over and over again. Very, very simple. Okay, that's the build. If you guys have any questions on anything, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed this build. I hope some of you guys try it out. If you do, let me know. But yeah, if you have any questions on anything, if I didn't cover anything, if you have any questions, drop me a comment down below. Please give the video a like, and you know, if you like my content, please subscribe to the channel. I've been really getting into making POE2 content lately, just obsessed with this game. So I plan on making more content in the future. I have a couple more build ideas that I might want to try out. So, you know, stick around. I may make videos on some of those. I'm cooking up some other potential builds. I've also started streaming recently. So, you know, feel free to stop by my stream. So far, I've only been streaming on YouTube. But if you guys are interested or would like to see me start a Twitch and stream on Twitch, drop me a comment down below. Let me know. I'd be interested to hear if people want to see me start Twitch, you know, streaming on Twitch. But yeah, come stop by my stream, say hi. I'll be streaming most evenings. I don't stream on Tuesdays or Wednesdays or Thursdays. Those are the days that I won't stream. But usually the rest of the days I'll be streaming in the evenings. I'm in the US, California, so I'll be streaming in the evenings, California time. Right now, my plan is I still have to finish building my temple on this character. I have a fully built out temple on my Oracle, but for this character, my temple's only like half built. I destabilized it and started over because I didn't like my setup. So if you'd like to see me, you know, build out a new Giga temple with the Adziri farm strategy, the video I made recently on that, I'll be doing that on stream. So come check that out. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.